In October of last year, the government announced a new 1,500-bed prison facility at Waikeria in Waikato. And following that announcement came a rise in the country's prison population to 10,000 inmates. This as crime rates are fairly stable, even falling in some areas. So why are so many new beds needed? That was the question Just Speak wanted to answer. This is an organisation committed to evidence-based justice reform, whose members are mostly young people. They undertook an investigation into why more beds were needed, and their report is conclusive. Bail. Here's Just Speak Director Dr. Katie Bruce.
It's been since the Bail Amendment Act, and that was quite surprising to us because the Bail Amendment Act predicted and projected only 50 extra beds. So we thought, well, that's not quite right, because what we've ended up with is 1,500 extra people on remand, a doubling of remand, and, you know, hugely over expectations just a few years ago.
So people are being remanded in custody prior to trial, and that, if you were looking for a single contributing factor, is overwhelmingly number one in terms of the increasing number of people in prison in New Zealand.
Yeah, it is if you look at the plain numbers. And there are other things contributing, like we talk about in the report, people being kept in prison for longer of their sentence because people are being denied parole more often. But actually it's around that bail issue, and that, you know, and that is so critical to understand for our government, because what they're doing is they're investing in a whole new prison when actually that, you know, that's probably actually not what we need.
Many people are remanded in prison because of their housing situation, you say in the report, and I was really struck by your explanation of that, which is only certain types of accommodation are acceptable bail addresses. So more people would get bail if they had the right kinds of homes to go to, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are two reasons why you might be kept on remand in prison. One is the seriousness of your offence, but the other one is whether your house is actually even suitable. So if you're in insecure housing and you don't have an alternative family address that you could go to, then you're actually likely to be kept on remand, particularly if they want to keep you on electronic bail with a tag, because those conditions can be quite harsh.
Let's look at parole. Anecdotal evidence suggests that at least part of the reduced number of people getting parole and the longer sentences people are serving before they're getting it is down to their inability to access programs in prison that must be completed as a prerequisite for parole eligibility. So this isn't the parole board playing hardball. This is insufficient resources to get people, for example, the drug and alcohol counselling they need.
Yeah, and like we say in the report, it's anecdotal. We know that, you know, the number of people being denied parole is going down, but what lies behind that, you know, that's really what it would be good to look at. So one of those things seems to be that we're requiring people to do more programs before they're eligible for bail, but eligible for parole. But obviously with an increased number of people in prison, there's more pressure, and, you know, there's just perhaps not the programs to go around, which is quite ironic really, because you're keeping people in prison longer so that they can get more skills perhaps, but the irony is the longer we keep people in prison, actually the more detrimental for them and their future and their potential of ending up back there.
Is there a political will to address this? Is this about parties trying to play hard on crime, and is there buy-in from anyone to even acknowledge the findings in your report?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's election year, law and order is up there. But actually we've had meetings with every single political party about this report. We've had a meeting with the Prime Minister, and everyone that we've spoken to has actually been quite concerned about the over-implementation of the Bail Amendment Act, because it's not what they voted for, it's not what they intended with that act. So I think there is a will for this particular issue, and what I would like to see is, this is only a tiny slice of the pie about why our prison population has risen in the last few years. What I would like to see is a cross-party accord that says, let's look at some of the more fundamental issues and injustices, and the mass imprisonment of Māori, for example. Let's look at those issues more broadly, and this hopefully is an opening into that, a more tangible solution.
Just Speak Director Dr. Katie Bruce.